What's up, everybody? Nick Powell's 1851 franchise here with Brent Dowling from Raintree. What's weird about this is you and I have kind of done these jointly, so now I get to interview you. But Brent, I'll let you share the news however you want to share it, and then I'll ask some follow-up questions.
Yeah, g'day, Nick. Big update today, just made live. But for this week's podcast, we'll be talking a little bit about the new strategic direction for Raintree. And that big news is that we've been acquired by franchise FastLane and Southfield Capital, and are really, really excited about the change and what lays ahead for our teammates, our employees, our brands, and the franchisees that we continue to recruit for each of those brands. So really pretty big monumental day for us. We're really excited and looking forward to next steps.
All right, let's go with the human side first. So you've had plenty of brands that you've worked with that have gone through some sort of exit where they've moved on, been acquired, merged, whatever. On the personal side, now that you've walked a day in their shoes, what does it feel like to go through an exit in the way that you've gone through it?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. You're right. We've watched our brands go through this process for a long time now. I think we've had 8 or 9 brands be acquired while under the stewardship of Raintree, and certainly kind of gotten feedback and watched along. But it's very different when you're in it. And from the human side, there's a lot of excitement along the journey. And our journey in working with FastLane and Southfield Capital was about 10 months almost. And so, yeah, there is days in that process where it's really exciting for many reasons. And then there's some real hard work and grit needed in the process. And then there's some days where you're flat out terrified. And so it really is a roller coaster of emotions in the journey. And I think more than anything, I've learned so much just in the process. My partner, Mike Edwards, president of Raintree, and I talked a lot along the process. And, we talked about, well, what if we decide not to, or it doesn't pan out? And my response was, I wouldn't take any of the time back. It's a lot of time. Wouldn't take it back, because you really do. When you go through it for the first time, you learn so much. Certainly from Southfield and the smart folks there on the private equity side. And from FastLane too, who have been through the process before and themselves being acquired by Southfield the year before it. And so there is a lot of feelings, but there really is a lot of learnings along the way, and I'm forever grateful for that part of it, for sure.
So, Brent, I've known you for a long time. You care deeply and passionately about the success of the brands that you work with. As a part of this process, did you have to go through communicating with them, and how do you communicate a message to them, and what was their support like?
Yeah, you certainly do. You want to make sure you communicate before making such a big decision, and having their buy-in was a big part of our decision too, right? So there's an initial stage when we started to get really serious about the discussions with Southfield and FastLane. Certainly some sidebar conversations with some of our longer tenured brands were had earlier in the process with, hey, kind of, this is the partnership that we're looking, this is the strategic equity partner we're looking at bringing on. What do you think? And it was such a no-brainer conversation for each one of those 3 or 4 brands. When it comes down to it, both FastLane and Raintree are very complementary. Now, FastLane's, for sure, in our opinion, and probably the opinion of most folks in the industry, I would imagine, the number one FSO in terms of using the consultant networks to successfully grow brands. And I think some people thought the same for Raintree in terms of the organic space, right? We were up there, if not number one up there, in terms of growing brands through using organic and digital tactics and strategies. And there's never a situation where you know for sure that one brand is going to be 100% successful on the organic side, or for sure a brand is really going to be taken by the broker networks and adopted and shown and successfully moved through those channels. There's always learnings to be done, and it's never, ever something you can fully predict. And when brokers didn't, or consultants didn't really latch on to one of our brands, it made it harder for us. We didn't have that initial traction to build digital campaigns off. And it was certainly a struggle for some of those brands to get initial traction when we didn't get that initial push from the consultants. And I think, Kerry and the team at FastLane would see the same for some of the brands that perhaps don't get that traction and need that organic push too. So that experience has been had in some way informed by most of the brands at Raintree. And so when we positioned, look, we know we're very confident in our ability to do this on the organic side. Sometimes it's a little questionable on whether we're going to be successful on the consultant side. When that's there at their disposal now, and you have the reputation that FastLane has and the relationships and the traction they have with all those broker groups, it's a very potent combination for our brands. And accordingly, they said, absolutely, how soon can you make it happen, was really how those conversations went.
So you and I have talked about the philosophical side of franchise growth, that some brands have a different projection or growth projection than others. And you take a term, FastLane, obviously they've always positioned that you get into the fast lane and we're going to accelerate your growth. And over on the Raintree side, it's like, we're going to accelerate your growth, but we're going to do it at a pace that is more conditioned to yours. And so it's almost like a triangle of you guys coming together, because I would imagine it's not that every brand is conditioned for crazy accelerated growth through the broker community. Some have to go at a slower pace. So when you're going through a process of combining forces, how much of the discussion is built around the philosophical side of things on where you guys each stand as it relates to franchise growth?
Such a great question. And a big part of the conversation and the decision into doing this, we determined there's probably almost 600 brands between Raintree and FastLane in the last calendar year that we declined, that simply we looked at, evaluated, and decided they really weren't ready for the type of growth that we could bring them. The opinion was that it would either gather that momentum or they wouldn't be able to support it properly. And so a big piece of this is, with Southfield Capital behind both of us now, there's an opportunity to create a program, and it's already created, and we're going to be working on it from day one under FastLane, called Carpool, which will allow franchisors that aren't quite ready for the type of growth, the explosive growth that you can see from FastLane or Raintree, but still get some of the services and some of the expertise that we do bring to our brands every day, so we can guide them on a path to make that happen in the right way. So with the thought that one day, if they do things the right way, we'll be ready for that type of growth. And that's really, really exciting to us. One, because we'll now be able to work with a lot more brands at that front. But two, it comes back to one of the things I was most impressed about by Franchise FastLane. The last year or so, they've been working on something I think that they've coined a brand health check, where they really carefully evaluate each of the brands and understand the metrics of how the franchise the franchisor itself is performing, so they can understand, are the franchisees that we're bringing them being successful, they've been supported properly, there's certain metrics and KPIs that they're looking for. And when they see that there's something that may need some help, they can kind of reach out and put the brakes on a little bit. But in this case, it's more about now understanding where franchisors, FSOs, there's quite a few of us that can grow brands really quickly. But I think as an industry, we're not doing a great job of rather than just saying stop, which we've done at Raintree, and good luck to you, you didn't quite cut it on the support front. We can now build systems and processes and tools to make sure that we're responsibly helping these franchisees on the other side of it, and the franchisors too. And that's a long bit of jargon for saying that we're going to be looking into expanding the services for franchisors and franchisees, so we can move away from this. The day that the franchise is sold and you've written your check, we're done. That's not really where we're looking to go anymore. And I think that's one of the things that really impressed me the most about FastLane. We'd always talked about it at Raintree, such a gargantuan mission to actually execute on. They're already well on their way, and we're excited to team up with them to continue to travel that journey and offer those services again.
I know your background as an entrepreneur, and I would say you hit all four marks in franchising. You're still a prospective franchisee. You are a franchisee, franchisor, and a supplier. So you looked at franchise and said, I'm gonna bite into the entire apple. I know you. So what's next? What happens after this, or where do you go in that next step, or how does the wheels start turning from an entrepreneur standpoint beyond this?
Yeah, I think what's next is I'm just really excited to focus on what we're going to do with FastLane. Again, I think that offering new services and certainly carpool where you can work with almost any brand in franchising is a really massive undertaking, right? It's going to take a lot of effort and grit. But I'm really excited to kind of execute on that, and alongside Carrie and her team, my team, we're excited to leave a new mark on franchising by taking that next step in responsibly bringing true responsibility to franchise development in a way that I hope that sets the standard moving forward. So more than just new brands for franchise ownership or becoming a franchisor in other concepts. I'm not really focused on that right now. I'm going to pause that to do something that I think has the opportunity to bring real legacy to both teams for all of us, and to do the right thing in franchising. So that's really the focus now.
I love it. Well, it's big news. I think this is probably the start to many discussions that we'll have about this. But Brent, congratulations, and looking forward to hearing more about this impact.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Appreciate talking to you every week, certainly today, and more soon for sure.
All right, that's another discussion with Brent, and there's going to be more. So call this a check mark in the list of things that we'll talk about in the future. See you guys.